If I asked you to name the capital of Japan, you'd probably say Tokyo. And normally you'd be right, but soon you might be half right. See, the Japanese Diet recently passed a bill paving the way for a second capital city. This would by no means replace Tokyo, it would simply take some of the burden off of the city's shoulders. But why? And how? And where? Well, let's take a look. But first, let's start with some very brief context. Since late 2025, Japan has been governed by a coalition between the Liberal Democratic Party and the Japan Innovation Party. But we can just call them the LDP and the JIP for short. And for those who don't know all the ins and outs of Japanese politics, the LDP is the leading conservative party in Japan, and currently they hold more than half the seats in the Japanese Diet. The JIP is best described as a libertarian party. They're in favor of deregulation and small government, and importantly for the purposes of this video, are huge advocates for a second capital city. So, as a part of the deal that solidified this governing coalition, the JIP and the LDP agreed to establish a consultative body on the topic of a second capital city, with the possibility of pushing a bill sometime in 2026. Then, in July of this year, a bill did indeed narrowly pass in the Japanese upper house, just 123 votes in favor to 121 against it. This bill simply defines a framework, it doesn't mean building a whole new city, although that approach has been recently adopted by Egypt and Indonesia. Instead, more than likely, a currently existing city will simply have the necessary infrastructure developed in order to take on some of those capital responsibilities. But why do some Japanese politicians want a second capital city in the first place? Well, it all comes down to two core purposes: economic decentralization and disaster mitigation. See, the thing about Tokyo is that it's an absolute behemoth of a city and the uncontested economic heart of Japan. More than half of all Japanese companies are headquartered in Japan, including all your household favorites like Sony, Toyota, and Arasaka. Tokyo is also an economic powerhouse on the global stage, with its $1.82 trillion GDP on par with entire nations like Poland, Switzerland, and Turkey. This also means that Tokyo alone makes up for more than a third of the entire Japanese economy. This has of course made Tokyo the place to be for the young, ambitious, and educated, with its world-renowned universities, booming technology sector, and crushing work culture, encouraging work culture. However, Tokyo's economic dominance has inadvertently harmed the rest of the country. Just for example, in recent years, almost every single prefecture in Japan experienced a population decline. Tokyo remained one of the few exceptions, and the largest group headed for Tokyo is by far those aged 20 to 24, the aforementioned young, ambitious, and educated, and now around a third of Japan's population is also based out of the greater Tokyo area. This has meant that rural prefectures are short of working-aged populations to stimulate local economies. Additionally, dwindling populations have also led to budget cuts, impacting essential services like healthcare and transport. But all of this lopsidedness begs the question, what do you do if something goes horribly wrong in Tokyo? Well, that's where disaster mitigation comes in. For some very brief context, again, Japan as a whole is considered quite a disaster-prone country, as it has the unfortunate luck of being located along 4 tectonic plates, which puts Japan at a constant risk of earthquakes. In fact, Japan records an average of 1,057 earthquakes every single year. By contrast, Australia records less than 100, and most of those are the much gentler intraplate earthquakes. Now, while Tokyo does maintain some fairly advanced infrastructure to handle these natural disasters, researchers in Japan believe there is an up to 80% chance of a mega earthquake hitting the country sometime in the next 30 years. This comes courtesy of the Nankai Trough, a subduction zone where one tectonic plate shifts under the other. And since the whole country is so reliant on Tokyo, no other city really has the infrastructure to take the reins even in the short term. This puts the government in a position they'd probably rather deal with sooner rather than later. So where could this second capital possibly be? Well, technically every city in Japan is allowed to nominate themselves as the potential second capital. However, there are a few star contenders. The city of Nagoya was the first city to announce its plans to join the race, with prefectural governor Hideaki Amura saying that the city already possessed all the necessary infrastructure. Sapporo and Hiroshima are both interesting contenders for their cultural relevance. Sapporo is located on the northernmost island of Japan, Hokkaido. This region has been traditionally occupied by the indigenous Ainu people, who have a long and difficult history with Japan, ranging from forced assimilation to institutionalized poverty. Historically, the region has lacked development from both governments and the public sector, leaving the region comparatively underdeveloped in one of the most developed nations in the world. If the second capital was designated in the north of Japan, this could represent a shift towards a traditionally underrepresented part of the country. Hiroshima is also an interesting choice. The city is a manufacturing hub, central to the country's automotive and shipping industries. However, more importantly, the city was the site of one of the two nuclear bombings that led to the end of the Second World War. Today, the city still stands as a symbol of loss, recovery, and of Japan's post-war identity. However, despite all that, the race might already be down to two contenders: Fukuoka and Osaka. Fukuoka is a coastal city like Tokyo, however it faces westwards towards the Tsushima Strait, whereas Tokyo faces east towards the Pacific Ocean. What this means is that Fukuoka, and indeed the entire western seaboard of Japan, is generally less prone to earthquakes, tsunamis, and other natural disasters. This is, as you can imagine, pretty essential to that disaster mitigation we mentioned earlier. Additionally, Fukuoka's distance from Tokyo would lend itself well to that economic decentralization we mentioned earlier, by shifting both public and private investment westward. And I mean, the city is practically perfect for investment. The city boasts a growing network of tech startups and entrepreneurs, and is home to Hakata Port, which is central to East Asian trade and logistics. The city also boasts some of the cheapest land prices among the major Japanese cities. For now, putting all of this information together, and it would seem like Fukuoka is about as good as it gets. It would decentralize the economy, provide a suitable alternative to Tokyo in the face of a disaster, and put Japanese politicians within fist-shaking distance of Korea.
Who's laughing now? Shut up!
But despite all that, Osaka might still be the favorite choice, and it doesn't come down to geography or economics or anything like that. It comes down to politics. See, the JIP, one part of the coalition that started this whole saga, is based out of Osaka and politically dominates the city and the prefecture. The party has led both the city and the prefecture for well over a decade now, and considers the region to be their political heartland. And for the majority of its tenure, the JIP has been pushing for Osaka City to achieve a coveted metropolis status, a designation currently only held by Tokyo. Now, while capital city status wouldn't automatically give Osaka metropolis status, it would solidify Osaka's position in Japan and the JIP's position in Japanese history. But this isn't to discredit Osaka in its own right. The city is home to millions of people, as 1/3 of the Kaihanshin, the dense metropolitan area combining Osaka, Kobe, and Kyoto. Osaka is also home to the Osaka Security Exchange, and has remained the 5th most competitive financial center in all of Asia. Ultimately, it's a little bit too early to make a final call on where Japan's second capital city could or should be. But considering Japan's shaky geography, the decision is well overdue. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe, and comment down below. This has been ENVEE.